This is a presentation of BSRN, Box Studios Radio Network. The Power Play Post Show is on the air, covering minor league hockey since 2003, and now covering the Binghamton Black Bears with news, reactions, and in-depth interviews only heard here. And now from the Box Studios in Kirkwood, New York, here is your host of the Power Play Post Show, Bob Howard.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Power Play Post Show. This is the show for March 17th, 2024. This is season 13 of the Power Play Post Show, episode number 32 and episode number 417 in the long-running podcast that is the Power Play Post Show. I am your host, Bob Howard, and I really hope everybody enjoyed this weekend of Binghamton Black Bears hockey because, wow. That's really the first thing I'm going to say is wow. 27-2. That was the goals for the Binghamton Black Bears and the goals against the Binghamton Black Bears this weekend. In 3 games, 27 goals for the good guys and 2 goals against, which was just absolutely crazy. There are so many numbers and stats and statistics wrapped around this weekend's action for the Binghamton Black Bears. I am probably not going to cover it all. I'm probably not going to get to it. I probably don't know everything. There were things that we were looking for, myself and even Brooks Hill, looking for number-wise because there was just so much happening this weekend with all of the goals that were scored. I mean, Austin Thompson with 6. It was just crazy. And just the shutout minutes that Connor McAnanama had between the last game he played against Elmira and then Mississippi with the shutout and then going all the way until the end of the third period. I mean, just so many numbers that you could talk about. We're not going to get to it all. But the Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcast and subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search for the Power Play Post Show and share with any of your friends, especially if they're a Binghamton Black Bears fan. We cover the Black Bears. This is what I do. I am a credentialed media member for the Binghamton, covering the Binghamton Black Bears. And our podcast is, probably one of the best things that they have that covers the Binghamton Black Bears, which is pretty cool. Check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. On this edition of the Power Play Post Show, 6 more questions with the Don of Binghamton, Don Olivieri. And heck, this game could have been even more lopsided if the Don was playing, but he was put on the 15-game IR or 14-game IR. If I saw that correctly, it was 14 games. So, honestly, we'll talk about, Mac Lewis returning to the team on Thursday. We'll talk about Don Olivieri not being with the team. So that information is out there. Mac Lewis has been activated. He did not play this weekend. They didn't need him this weekend. He can get a full week of practicing before they bring him in. They also let Peter Izzo go. We'll talk more about that stuff on Thursday's podcast. Right now, we got to break down this weekend. This is the weekend wrap-up show, and so we have 3 big games. 3 wins, 27 goals, only gave up 2 goals to their opponents, and the magic number to win the division is now only 5 points. This could happen on Friday, possibly Saturday, for the Binghamton Black Bears. And I know from talking to the Black Bears, especially Coach Sherwood, he wants to see that division title banner go up into the stands. So that's something that they are really shooting for. Not just a division title, but they also want the championship as well. Okay, so Friday night versus the Mississippi Seawolves, a 9-1 win over the Seawolves. And my gosh, it started off with a Justin Barr goal at the 151 mark in the first period, and then it was all Binghamton after that, right? As we know, Austin Thompson scored at 5:26. Then Cameron Clark scored on the power play. Boy, did he look good in those first two games against Mississippi. He scored at the 15:38 mark on the power play. And then just a few minutes later, Austin Thompson scored his second goal of the game, also on the power play. Power play was clicking really well in this game for the Binghamton Black Bears. They went 3 for 5 on the power play. In the second period, 5:03 mark, Josh Fletcher gets a goal. Cameron Clark gets the assist on that. So does Austin Thompson. That ended up being his fourth point of the game. At the 10:01 mark of the second period, Gavin Yates gets on board with a Andrew Logar assist. That made the game right there already kind of out of reach, 5-1. Tyson Kirkby started the scoring in the third period because he couldn't let Austin Thompson have all the glory. Gavin Yates gets another assist, and now it's 6-1. Becomes 7-1 when Austin Thompson completes his hat trick. Andrew Logar gets an assist. Connor Smith gets an assist in that. That was Connor Smith's third assist in the game. Then on the power play at 14:05 mark, Tyson Kirkby scores. And then he completes his hat trick because he cannot let Austin Thompson have all the glory. Again, he scores at the 17:20 mark. This makes the game 9-1. 2 hat tricks in this game between the Black Bears, Austin Thompson, and Tyson Kirkby. Okay, so both of them have it. This is only the second time in Black Bears franchise history that 2 players scored a hat trick in the same game. That was back on 2/19 in 2022 against the Delaware Thunder. Josh Newberg and Gavin Yates scored a hat trick each. Tonight it was Austin Thompson Friday night it was Austin Thompson and Tyson Kirkby. Noel Egbert only had 16 saves on 17 shots. 8 of those I thought were very good shots. So he had a big night, only giving up 1 goal. He looked good. Overall, a dominant game by the Black Bears. Connor Smith, again, like I said, with 3 assists. Gavin Yates with an amazing goal and 3 assists as well. So you had a really good game against a team who obviously traveled up from Biloxi. I'm imagining that they came in the night before. So what are we going to get the next day, right? What's going to happen the next day? Well, on Saturday night, it was a win versus the Mississippi Seawolves. And by the way, in that game, I think Don of Olivieri didn't even register a point. No, he did. My bad. On one of the Tyson Kirkby goals, he had an assist. He was on our show on Thursday night, and we usually expect a player that comes on to go and score a goal for us. But he didn't do that on Friday night. He did get an assist. He did have a point. He was antagonistic a little bit. The game really wasn't overall anything more than a score fest for the Binghamton Black Bears. On Saturday night, they beat the Seawolves 10-0. The second shutout of the season for Black Bears and for Connor McAnanima. Okay, now there have been 4 shutouts in franchise history in the 3 years, and Connor McAnanima has 2 of those. Okay, so let's go into the scoring on this one because this is pretty insane. Jesse Anderson got his 9th goal of the season at the 2:37 mark of the first period to start scoring. And 26 seconds later, Cameron Clark, another goal for Cameron Clark. Man, like I said, he looked really good. He was on a line, was Austin Thompson, and I believe Josh Fletcher. And boy, did they just look good. They just really, really looked good. He got that goal at the 3:03 mark. 19:29 mark of the first period, Tyson Kirkby gets his 4th goal of the weekend, and Austin Thompson got 2 assists in that period. I mean, he was just on fire. I believe through the first 2 games of this weekend, he had 8 points, okay, which is pretty impressive. Let's see here. The Black Bears then in the second period on a power play, Austin Thompson gets another power play goal this weekend, so pretty impressive for him. He's really picked it up. And I know that Andrew Logar leads the team with 10 power play goals. Guess what? Austin Thompson's got 7. So he's he's been a power play specialist. He's been a special team guy for the Binghamton Black Bears as well this season so far. At the 4-4, so that was the only goal in the second period, right? So it was only 4-0 at the end of 40 minutes. Again, Connor McAnanama playing really well in this game. And he obviously playing very well. He didn't have to save a lot of shots in the first two periods, but still he made the shots. He saved what he had. I thought Connor McAnanama played a better game on Sunday because he had to play a better game on Sunday. And that doesn't take away anything from the shutout. It doesn't take anything away from what he did in the 60 minutes against the Mississippi Seawolves on Saturday night. But Mississippi did not play the same game as the Elmira River Sharks. And I think the one goal that he gave up, that game on Sunday, Connor was and had to be a better player than he had to be on Saturday night. Again, not a knock on him. All right, so the third period was a pretty goal fest for the Binghamton Black Bears. Dan Weber got on board and scored a goal. He doesn't score many goals. I think that was his third or fourth of the season. Kyle Stefan got a goal. I believe his first of his career. Had a few of those, a couple of those this weekend. He scored at the 6:54 mark, and then just about a minute and 4 seconds later, Colin Fitzgerald scores a shorthanded goal. Now, one of the big stats from this weekend was that Colin Fitzgerald completed something that nobody's done in Binghamton Black Bears history: score a shorthanded goal in each one of the 3 seasons. So Colin scored a shorthanded goal in the first season for the Black Bears, second season, and now back. His first goal of this season was that shorthanded goal. So pretty impressive there. Like I said, there's a lot of stats to unpack from this weekend, and I don't think we'll get to it all. Then at the 10:04 mark, Donald Olivieri scores the power play post-show streak goal, which basically means that there have been a lot of guys that have come on this show from the Black Bears and then gone out and had a good weekend and scored a goal, and Donald Olivieri is one of those guys. So at that point, it is 8-0. Austin Thompson then scores his second goal of the game, fifth goal of the weekend, right, on the power play, again on the power play, and that was at the 12:23 mark. That made it 9-0, and then JT Walters, who just said, you know what, I know I'm a D-man. I know I'm not supposed to get involved in this, but I will, and he did, and now it was 10-0. Connor McAnanama finished off the day and everything. Now he finished it off, and the Black Bears got obviously the shutout, which is awesome. Dan Weber was injured in the second period. He sustained. He came back though. And he also scored the third period's first goal. So Dan Weber, he got hit pretty hard, left the ice, came back out in the third period and scored a goal, which is pretty good. The team did announce this was the 6th sellout of the season. Now, I mean, watching from home, it kind of looked like it was a little not as full as I've seen the sellouts be. But hey, if they got rid of all the tickets, that's what matters, even if a couple people didn't show up. The potential 8th goal from Austin Thompson was the right call. That was called a no goal. It did not cross the line. So there was there was never a controversy with this. It was a great save by one of the Mississippi Seawolves defenders who came skating in behind his netminder to make the save. Puck never went across the line, so that was good. This was the largest shutout victory in Black Bears history. Again, another stat that you got to take a look here. They won this game 10-0, and in the 4 shutouts, obviously this is the game that they scored the most goals. So this was the largest shutout victory for the Binghamton Black Bears. This was the 4th shutout in Black Bears franchise history. Once again, Austin Thompson scored 2 goals and had 5 at this point of the weekend and 2 more assists. This was the 7th double-digit goals scored in a game in Black Bears history. And yes, I'm keeping track of that. That takes us to Sunday. Now, Sunday was a little bit more of a feisty game. The first 2 games against Mississippi, I was told that, well, first of all, they didn't have Yanni Lairakis, who is one of the best players in this league. He was not there. He's been suspended by the team and hasn't been with them for about a month now. So this game just, against the Elmira River Sharks, we've already seen that Elmira can bring it to Binghamton, right? They've won 3 games against Binghamton in the 10 games coming into this one. 2 of them in regulation. Both of those were scores 6-3 in Elmira. The other game was also in Elmira, and I think it was like a 4-3 overtime win. So Elmira can play Binghamton well. But one of the things that Elmira has done well against Binghamton, and so has Watertown, and you don't want the teams at the bottom of the division to do this to you, but they have done this to the Black Bears. Okay? And I'm going to say this, and this is a critique I hope that any of the Black Bears listen to, that they take in and say, listen, I already know that they're the best team in the league. I know that they've played the toughest schedule compared to Columbus. I already know that this is a special team. I've said that multiple times. But one of the critiques I have about this team, and I'm going to continue to say this because it continues to happen, is that they retaliate and get themselves into trouble. Now, are they a team that sometimes can have penalty trouble? Absolutely. Stick infractions, the Dan Weber boarding call tonight, I know Dan was looking for a good hit, and it was a good, clean hit. The problem is he hit him into and I don't even know if boarding was the right call, because it doesn't, by the definition of boarding, that's not what he did. It was a clean hit. It was a clean hit. The problem, and the reason why the penalty is called, is because the guy went into the rounded part of the boards next to the roster, or next to the player's bench, that rounded part. And there's no give there. There is no give in that part of the glass at the Broome County Veterans, or the Visions Veterans Memorial Arena. There isn't. So that's going to happen. So I know people are going to talk about it and say Dan Weber is dirty and that was a dirty hit. It wasn't a dirty hit. It was an unfortunate hit, and the penalty was called because the guy was injured. And that is something that hockey's been doing in all the levels, right? If a guy gets injured because of a hit, kind of regardless if it's clean or not, there's going to be some sort of 2-minute penalty that's going to apply. Now, if the league suspends him for that hit, then they have a lot more problems up top than they know. That is not a suspendable hit. That is a hit where you hope the guy comes out and plays the next game because he skated off and he did not know where he was. But it was a clean hit that resulted in an injury, and that's why the 2-minute penalty. It does not deserve to be suspended. And I'm going to say that flat out right now. If you're an Elmira fan and you're listening to this, that does not deserve to be suspended. I've seen worse stuff not get called and not have someone suspended in my lifetime multiple times. I'm just going to say that out loud. Okay, so let's get into the scoring for this game here. At the 154 mark, Scott Ramamakers. I don't know how to say it. Yeah, Scott, I apologize if you listen. If any of your family members listen, I do apologize. I'll figure it out at some point. I got to say your name one more time at least, so I'm screwed. That was his first professional goal. He did it in minute 54 in his first game. I mean, come on. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. All right, 3:29 into the game, Dan Weber gets his second goal of the weekend, second goal in 2 games. He was off on Friday and then played Saturday and Sunday and scored in both games. That's pretty amazing for him. I think that's his 5th goal of the season. Gavin Yates got the assist in both of the first 2 goals there. And then in the third goal, he gets a secondary assist in the first period, 15:54. Colin Fitzgerald gets his second goal of the weekend as well. That's not normal. Colin doesn't usually score a lot, right? But there you go. So Dan Weber scores twice. Colin Fitzgerald scores twice. That's how you know that the Black Bears, it just came easy, okay? These guys don't normally score. They usually take long shots from the blue line. And, if it gets tipped in, it gets tipped in. That usually happens a lot. Austin Thompson got a lot of goals last year because he was tipping in pucks that the blue liners were sending his way. Right now, it's 3-0. It's the end of the 20 minutes, and it's just like, holy cow, this is happening all over again, right? in the second period, 18:26 into the second period, right? We go almost a whole another period before another goal was scored, and that was by Austin Thompson, his 6th of the weekend, folks. I'm telling you, Austin Thompson's stats just ballooned like crazy this weekend. Dan Weber got an assist on that. So now Dan Weber's got 3 points in 2 games. What is going on here? Josh Fletcher also got an assist on that Austin Thompson goal. Then 1912, like 46 seconds later, Justin Samaro gets a goal. Dakota Bond with the assist. It's now 5-0, right? And we're like, what the heck is going on here? In the third period, 4 minutes and 44 seconds into it, Andrew Logar scores another power play goal. Of course he did, because that's just what Andrew Logar does, right? And then 20 seconds later, Kyle Stefan scores his second goal of the weekend, his second pro goal. And Liam Anderson, who sat out 2 of the games this weekend, I think, he gets an assist. So good for Liam Anderson. Josh Fletcher also gets another assist there. So Josh Fletcher assisted on a couple goals this weekend, get a goal and everything. And then we get another shorthanded goal, 2 shorthanded goals in the weekend. At the 7:47 mark of this game, Scott Ramamakers, I know I'm saying it wrong, but it's that damn E that's in the way. Ramakers. We'll go with Ramakers until someone tells me differently. It's Scott Ramakers, right? Colin Fitzgerald gets an assist on that. So now Colin Fitzgerald has 3 points this weekend. Justin Samaro with an assist. And then Dustin Jasso scores a power play goal. You knew it was going to happen because the Black Bears had like 90 friggin' minutes in penalties. I mean, they just could not stop with the penalties. They could not stop retaliating towards Elmira. Dustin Jasso kept going after Connor Smith, and Connor Smith kept going after him. There was a couple 10-minute misconducts thrown at their way. You know, it just was not a great game for the Black Bears. Okay, so Connor McAnanama went 46 minutes and 10 seconds in one game against Elmira. Then the shutout on Saturday, that's 60 minutes, and then went 56 minutes and 6 seconds in this game before giving up a goal. That's 162 minutes and 16 seconds in shutout minutes in consecutive games that Connor McAnanama played. That's freaking impressive. That is a record for the Binghamton Black Bears in shutout minutes. 162 and 16, okay? If you do the math, that is a little over, let's see here. If each game is, that's a little over 2.5 games, 2 games and 2 games, 2 periods. It's just crazy. Yeah. So that's 8 periods that he went over without giving up a goal. Pretty impressive. Okay, in typical fashion, in one fault of the Binghamton Black Bears, I've already mentioned this, the penalties and possible suspensions will get in the way of this team. Brant Sherwood is maybe going to get another game, suspension. He got a inciting from a player staff or whatever game misconduct, and you know how the friggin' league is against Coach Sherwood. They know they are, because he gets more suspensions and fines than any person here. Now, is he at fault a little bit? Probably. He can't keep his mouth shut. He throws the F word probably at the referees or whatever way too much. He's doing it in defense of his players. Let's be honest. This is what Coach Sherwood would tell me. We could have an honest conversation about this, and he's going to tell me, I'm going to stick up for my players, and if that means I get suspended by this league, then fine, so be it. But we'll look for that. We'll talk more about that on Thursday's show, because I'm sure something will come out about that. Maybe he'll just get fined. Maybe he'll just get fined in this particular case. The third period broke down, and even though Coach Sherwood had Preach, do not retaliate. The Black Bears got caught up and all that stuff. Dan Weber got tagged with a 2-minute boarding play where it was a clean hit, but the player from Elmira hit the curved glasses that we talked about. I don't think it'll be suspendable hit, but as we know, the FPHL this season, you never know. Overall, this was a very good weekend for the Black Bears. This was an excellent weekend for the Black Bears, I will say. We cannot talk enough about the play of the team. Offensively, they scored 27 goals, but only gave up 2 goals all weekend long. They scored on the power play. They killed every penalty until the Gesso goal. They got pretty impressive. The Black Bears went this weekend and scored 27 unanswered goals before Gesso scored in the third period. Justin Barr scored the first goal of the weekend in Binghamton, and then Dustin Gesso scored the last goal, and then Binghamton scored 27 goals in between. I'm sorry, there's so many numbers to this weekend. I'm not going to be able to get to them all because I probably can't even think of everything, right? All the point streaks that guys probably have. I know just Austin Thompson just had a phenomenal weekend. And when I pull up the standings after we listen to Donald Olivieri, we'll talk a little bit about that. Binghamton hits the 101 point mark. We'll talk about that in just a little bit as well. But what a weekend for the Binghamton Black Bears. They get all 9 points. Motor City lost one of their games. The magic number is now down to 5. Okay, so to win the division. So they had a pretty good weekend, and they're not complaining. They're not complaining at all. They probably didn't like the way the game ended against Elmira on Sunday, but, it is what it is when it comes to that. So let's get my voice a little bit of a break, and you guys can hear somebody else talk for a few minutes and everything. Let's bring in our 6 more questions with Donald Olivieri. When we come back on the other side of that, we will talk about the standings for the Empire Division, and we'll talk about that and maybe pull up some stats from this weekend as well. So we'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
You're listening to the Power Play Post Show. Here is another Power Play Post Show interview exclusive with Bob Howard.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. It is time for 6 more questions with Don Olivieri. Don, are you ready for these?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, perfect. Number 1, to this point in your hockey playing career, and we've already talked about it, you've got a long one. What has been your greatest achievement?
Man,
it's a tough one, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even say it was an achievement. I just think being able to, travel around my family at a young age and appreciating everything they did for me to have this opportunity to play. I think, I don't think that's the greatest achievement, but that's the most what I'm most appreciative of. And without them, I couldn't do half the stuff that I did, and I wouldn't be able to achieve half the things I did without them.
So the journey is better than the destination, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Sometimes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Great. All right. Number 2. All right. This is, the young guys on the team probably like this question. Hopefully you will too. Number 2. Are you a Nintendo, Xbox, or PlayStation player, and what is your go-to game if you play?
Big Xbox guy.
Okay.
Play mostly a lot of Call of Duty.
Okay.
I play that and a little bit of MLB The Show here and there, but mostly Call of Duty.
MLB The Show is great. I love MLB The Show. Perfect. All right. Number 3, are you a rock, country, or hip-hop music lover, and who is your go-to artist? And I should put in there the electric music because a couple of the guys actually picked that instead. So, but what's your go-to?
I listen to everything. I'm not picky. It depends on the mood and the day. If I'm in the gym, I'm listening to rock or the EDM but if I'm driving, some country or hip hop, it doesn't matter. I'll listen to anything. I'm not picky about anything. I don't have a favorite anybody. I listen to it all.
Cool. Very cool. All right, number 4. Who is the funniest guy in the locker room?
Oh, funniest guy in the locker room. Man, there's quite a few characters on the team. I don't know, man. That's tough. I mean, I think Yates is kind of a goofball. I mean, he says some random things sometimes that gets guys laughing and gets guys going. So I'd probably have to go with Gavin.
Okay. All right. He's been mentioned already before, so that's a good guess. All right, number 5. What is your go-to cheat meal or snack that you would say is not in your normal diet?
Oh.
The one thing that you go to that you may not normally eat in your regular diet. I mean, especially when you were, I would say, full-time professional, so to speak.
Man, that's tough. That's tough to ask in Italian because I eat everything.
That is true.
Yeah, I think if there's something I'm creating, like there's one day that I'm going to cheat and then go all out. It's probably this place up by me. It's called Curly's Creations. It's a cheesesteak joint, and man, it's probably the best cheesesteak I've had in Philadelphia so far.
Okay, so you would pick them over Pat's and Gino's, right?
Yeah, I mean, Pat's and Gino's are one of those things where,
they're too commercial.
Yeah, and they're good for, when people are coming into town and
yeah.
But for a guy like me that's been living here, there's so many other places that are better than those guys.
Yeah, I've heard that many times over, Don, that, people who are from Philly, though they probably could pick between Pat's and Gino's, that there are 15 other great sandwich places in Philly that you could go eat at.
Oh yeah, 100%. And like I said, this Curly's Creations place is by far probably my top go-to right now when I want to splurge a little bit.
Perfect. All right, number 6, final question. A zombie outbreak has happened, and you're locked in a ice hockey arena, right? So you're stuck in an ice hockey arena. Who is the one person, dead or alive, that you'd want there with you?
Man, after what you told me, I might want Eggy there. He might be on to something. He might be prepared for this. I don't know.
All right, but, it could be anybody. Who would you want in that arena with you?
Man, I don't know. That's tough. I mean, I got to go with somebody with some kind of probably. It could be like
it can be anybody,
like fake or real. Like
it could be a fake person as well. Yes.
Can I say the Terminator? Arnold Schwarzenegger from the Terminator.
I think that's a great choice. Absolutely, it's one of my favorite action film series of all time. So, without a doubt, I will accept that answer. The Don of Binghamton. He has made his choice. I like it. Don, thank you very much again for talking to us. And you've been listening to the Power Play Post Show.
If you're a Binghamton hockey fan, then you need to check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your news, stats, information, the Binghamton Hockey Hall of Fame, top 10 lists, profiles, and so much more. That's binghamtonhockey.net. You're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. That was Don of Olivieri, and he picked the Terminator, right? I like it. I love it. Terminator, one of my favorite action film series of all time. So I am on board with that, the Don of Binghamton. And so, all right, so let's talk a little bit about the standings right now. Now, of course, tonight, as I'm recording this, about 8:20 p.m., the Danbury Hat-Tricks and the Watertown Wolves are playing a game, so this is not going to be factored into there. But let's talk about the important stuff. Binghamton has now played 45 games on the season. They are 32-6-7 and have 101 points. They are top in the division. The Motor City Rockers also have now clinched a playoff spot, and they are 29-16-4. and they have 85 points. So they're 16 points behind the Binghamton Black Bears. Now, they have 7 more games left. Now, 7 times 3 is 21, which means they can get to 106 points, potentially, if they get all of those. And that is why the magic number is 5 for us to win the division. We get a win and 2 points, it's done. If we get a win and they lose 3 points, it is done. It's that simple, that easy. The Binghamton Black Bears will win the Empire Division, which is pretty awesome. So the Danbury Hat Tricks, now, they are 10 points behind right now. Going into tonight's game against Watertown, they're 10 points behind the Motor City Rockers, okay? They've won 8 games in overtime, which kind of hurts their points total and everything, but they're 26, 17, and 5 before tonight's game. And that's the reason why they have so many less points than Binghamton and Motor City, is because they got 8 wins in overtime. I mean, Motor City's got 6 as well. So, I mean, that really does hurt. Binghamton's only got 2 wins in overtime. They've got, right now, 30 wins in regulation. I mean, that's 90 points right there. I mean, so that's a lot. They've only lost 7 in overtime. That's a point each, right? And then you take the 2 wins that they have as well in the extra stanza, and you basically get your 11 points there. Elmira, the team that we played against today, they're 16-30. My apologies. They're 18-30 because they have 2 overtime wins. They're 18-30 with 52 points. At this point, I don't see Elmira catching Danbury for 3rd place. Watertown right now going into tonight's game, they're 15-25-5. with 48 points. They have a chance to still make the playoffs. So the Elmira River Sharks have to watch out for Watertown. Any games that those 2 teams still have against each other are going to matter. Now, let me go to the Fed site and everything real quick here, right? And I'm going to pull up the standings overall. Now, I want to look and I want to compare right now Columbus and Binghamton a little bit, right? So Columbus has played 1 less game than Binghamton. At the beginning of this weekend, we had played, I think, a couple less than them. But I believe that Columbus didn't have as busy of a weekend this weekend as we did. We played 3-3. They might have only played 1 game. Okay. But Columbus has 33 regulation wins. We have 30 regulation wins. Okay. They've lost 4 in regulation. We've lost 6 in regulation. Okay. Now, the Black Bears have also lost 7 in overtime, and Carolina has only lost 3 in overtime, but they've got 4 overtime wins, and we only have 2. So that's why there's a 9-point difference between the 2 teams. Now, again, they have an advantage of being able to play against Wytheville and Baton Rouge and Mississippi. Now, we just saw what Mississippi was made of. They weren't made of much. They did not bring too much to the table against the Binghamton Black Bears. So if you think about it, if Columbus is playing Mississippi, Wytheville, and Baton Rouge, and, you know, Mississippi does have 20 wins on the season, right? Wytheville's got 13. Baton Rouge has got 10. If you take a look at the bottom 3 teams for the Empire Division, right, you've got 26 wins for Danbury, right? That could be more tonight. You've got 18 wins for Elmira, and you've got 15 wins for Watertown. It's a tougher division. I'm telling you right now, just because Columbus might win the league overall points doesn't mean they're the better team. They've beaten the teams that they're supposed to beat. I'm sure that Carolina has had a good run with them, and even Port Huron has probably played decent against them. Only 2 teams in the Continental Division are above 500, right? Port Huron, Mississippi, Wytheville, and Baton Rouge are not, okay? In the Empire Division, you have 3 teams over 500, okay? So I just want to point that out and everything, because you hear people talk about it all the time. Let's talk a little bit about the stats right now. Taysom Kirkby, through 44 games, has 65 points, 30 goals, and 35 assists. Connor Smith with 23 goals and 34 assists for 57 points. Austin Thompson has really just kind of made a big jump. I mean, this weekend alone, Let's look at his numbers specifically as we pull him up here on the site and everything. In just 3 games alone this weekend, he had 9 points. He had 6 goals, 3 assists for 9 points. And if you go back 10 games, I mean, he's just killing it. He is just killing it. He had a really good weekend this weekend. Now, of course, Tyson Kirkby also had a great weekend this weekend. In 3 games, Tyson Kirkby also had a hat trick, right? He did not score a goal today, right? But he still had a 7-point weekend. He had a very good weekend. But Tyson Kirkby also has points in his last, I'm going to count this out for you folks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games. He's got points in his last 11 games and everything. He has really killed it for a very long time. And it was only the 1 game against the Rockers that he had no points, and then before that, he had a ton of points as well. So Tyson Kirkby is on a pretty impressive roll that goes all the way back to January 20th, where he only missed 1 game of getting points and everything. And in those 11 games, he's got 7, there's 10, 13, 14, 15, 18, 20. He's got 22 points in the last 11 games. 2 points per game in the last 11 games. Pretty impressive run that Tyson Kirkby is having. He is the leader of this team offensively. He is the leader of this team with the C on his chest. He's having a great, later half of this season. And, there was a game where we thought he was dogging it and probably not putting out his best effort, and he's pretty much kicked butt. All right, in the last 4 games for Gavin Yates, think about this for a second. 11 points in the last 4 games. He had 3 points today, 3 assists. He had 2 assists on Saturday. He had 4 points on Friday, a goal and 3 assists, and then he had a goal and assist last Saturday against the Hat Tricks, a goal and assist. He literally has 11 points in just his last 4 games. So the Black Bears, some pretty impressive runs, some pretty impressive streaks, things going on, happening right now. And let's listen. I got to give it up to Connor McAnanama and Nolan Egbert. They had a phenomenal weekend as well. Connor McAnanama is now 15-1-4 and has a 2.31 goals against average and a 921 save percentage. Nolan Egbert is now 9-3-2, 3.23 goals against average and a .889 save percentage. I got to be honest with you, the both of them played very, very good. And this weekend, they deserve a lot of accolades as well. Not just Austin Thompson, not just Tyson Kirkby, not just Connor Smith, who also, Connor Smith has not scored a goal in a while, okay? But he also had 6 assists this weekend, okay? So he still was, production. He did have 12 penalty minutes this week, or today, against the Elmira River Sharks, but he and Dustin Gesso were talking to each other and having pleasantries, I'm sure. Either way, a little bit longer of an episode here on the Weekend Wrap-Up Show, but there was so much to talk about and everything, so I want to cut this off. We'll talk more on Thursday. We'll talk about Mac Lewis returning. We'll talk about Peter Izzo being released. We'll talk a little bit more about maybe what will happen with Jake Schultz and potentially Matthew Boulard coming back. So there's a lot of roster stuff still to be worked out. And, from my conversations with Coach Sherwood, today was supposed to be one of those days where he was going to look at and see if the last right wing position could be filled. And, of course, what might happen with the 10th forward. So a lot of that is trying to be figured out going into the playoffs. So we'll talk more on Thursday about that. The Power Play Post shows on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcast and subscribe. please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search the Power Play Post Show. Check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. And thank you to Rob Lapolis, our MC, John Petitucci, our musical director, and the Don of Binghamton, Don of Olivieri, for answering 6 more questions. I am Bob Howard. Thank you for listening to the Power Play Post Show.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Power Play Post Show. Be sure to tune in next week to the Box Studios Radio Network for all the latest Black Bears news and interviews from around minor league hockey. The Power Play Post Show would like to thank John Patitucci for all the music you hear on the show. You've been listening to the Power Play Post Show.